And after his 9-to-5 job, my dad would work on a farm. And on weekends, what weekends? There were no weekends. My father would bring my brother and I, and one of the things he would do is he would bring my brother and I every single year to the same exact spot in the farm, and he would make us hold up this signboard to show how old this farm is. And he would be really proud of this farm, and he would always, tell his friends how proud he was seeing his kids and trees and the fruits all grow up together. And this was the first 10 years of, growing up and being on the farm. And so my entire life, I want you to kind of understand that both my parents, they were not entrepreneurs. In fact, their entire lives, they worked with the government of Malaysia. They were government servants. So I've always been conditioned that that's what life is about. You want to be successful? I asked my dad, in fact, when I was growing up and looking at how he worked on the farm, I remember asking my dad this one question. I said, Dad, I want to be successful one day. Like, what do I need to do in order to be successful? I remember this moment so vividly. He looked at me and he said, son, if you want to be successful in life right now, you got to study hard in the school, get good grades so that you can get a good job. And because I didn't want to see my dad remain a farmer for the rest of his life, I always knew I wanted to be successful. And so I always had it in me. I always wanted it in me, even as a kid, because I didn't want to see my father remain a farmer for the rest of his life. So I always wanted to be successful, so I got good grades in school. But unfortunately, because of when I went to college, I got it was a sponsorship from the government. It was on scholarship, fully paid. But because of a lot of parties, alcohol, and good times, I actually nearly failed university. I got a 42% average, and that was because, they were all, my housemates, they were all partying every single night. And I'll be playing this game called World of Warcraft. And while I was playing World of Warcraft, they're all being smoking up. And my whole house, everybody would be like stoned. So, that was pretty much how I spent 3 years in college, because my entire life I've done well in school, and I thought college was not going to be any different. So when I finally went back home to Malaysia, that was when reality happened. Some of you saw my first pay slip. It was for $400 approximately. And I actually worked on that job that paid me $400 a month for nearly 2 years, because I truly believe that if I didn't get good grades in school, this would be the price I had to pay for the rest of my life. So finally, when I went back, I actually started my first ever website out of desperation. This is my first ugly looking website. It was based on that computer game World of Warcraft. And long story short, after 9 months, the gaming market, the gaming niche, actually enabled me to quit my job. It paid me, well, not a whole lot, about 3 times more than my full-time job, but that was when it gave me hope. Now, the turning point happened when this happened, right? So I was doing really well. I created this guide. Some of you know this story as well. And because I was this really shy, introverted kid, all I really wanted to do was be anonymous behind my computer, make money online, and I never thought I could be presented or marketed under the name Peng Joon, because I thought to myself, like, who would ever want to listen to this guy called Peng Joon? So during all those years of marketing online, I've always marketed under the same pen name. It was Tony Sanders, right, which is Tony Robbins and Colonel Sanders. So so Tony Sanders was my pen name for many, many years until this thing happened. What happened was one day I was in all these different niche markets where my belief was, in order to make $1 million a month, that was my target, I needed to create 1,000 sites that makes $1,000 a month. So I was in all these different niche markets. I was in dating, I was in Farmville, I was in all these different gaming markets. And I made this mistake of sending an email out to my list of gamers, the dating product that I had. So back then I had about a list of about 700,000 people. So about 350,000 of them were gamers. So imagine 350,000 nerds receiving a dating offer, and obviously, they weren't happy about it. I got a ton of spam complaints overnight. And AWeber, that was my email autoresponder company at that time, they shut me down. So because of that, and they refused to give me a copy of my email list, I had to do something different. And that was when it made me get out of my own comfort zone, where I thought to myself, wow, the stuff I knew here is really powerful. What if I could actually teach someone else how to do this? So that was when I started going to trainings on how to speak and present. And you guys heard of this story, right? So I was at this event where the trainer was, pretty hard on me, but I was very thankful that he did that because it got me out of my comfort zone. But even after this event, here's what many people didn't know. Right after this event, I met the founder of one of the biggest seminar organizers in the world called Success Resources. And Veronica, she asked me if I would like to speak in their event in about 6 weeks from this event, right? And I thought to myself, why not? Let's give it a shot. Okay, so right after this speaker training that I went to, I did my very first event in a room of about 900 people. Here's what happened. Right after this event, when I learned for the very first time how to do a stack, right? So I was doing my stack, right? I was writing all of the different price points in here. And then I said this. I said, for the first 17 people that go to the back of the room. And then nothing happened. And I remember this moment so clearly. There were 900 people there. And you gotta remember the difference, right? I was told that my energy level is not high enough. I gotta be doing all these different things. And so my energy level was like, for the first 17 people, let's stand up and go to the back of the room. And when nothing happened and they were all sitting down, just, their arms crossed, looking at me, I was thinking to myself, like, what is going on? Because during this training, when I said for the first 17 people go to the back room, what would happen was all the other participants would stand up and they'd go to the back to give you this confidence. But when it happened for real, they didn't prepare me for what would happen if nobody moves. So it was so awkward. And you gotta understand that. So this was 7 years ago, where things were done very differently. There was no music, there was nothing like that. And there were 900 people there. So what happened was, when I ended my talk, I said, thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor, a privilege to be here. And just imagine this, okay? 900 people, finishing a talk, nobody moved. And now you gotta get off stage, and there's like 900 people there, and you gotta kind of awkwardly smile to everybody in this huge expo hall and walk to the back room, right? That was like the walk of shame. Okay, so I had to walk to the back room. And the weird thing was this. I had so many people coming up to me saying, Peng Jun, your talk was amazing. And I was thinking, if you thought it was amazing, why didn't you invest, right? And I know Russell has a similar story like that, but that's exactly what I went through as well. And I believe that many speakers went through it, especially if they didn't have a system, right? And that is one of our focuses here in this event as well. Because speaking and closing are two completely different things. That's something I didn't understand back then. I came from the angle, the mindset that as long as I gave them great content, the audience will be able to make that informed decision and invest. Because that's what the trainer told me, one of my early trainers that I went training for told me. They said, just go out there, give amazing value, and the audience will be able to make that informed decision and invest. Now, while that sounds good in theory, the truth is that's not going to happen, right? So I'm going to be showing you as well how to balance out between really teaching and selling, but at the same time, how do you actually serve them at the highest levels in your trainings, in your events, so that they actually want to continue working with you. So, sidebar, okay? What did I just do? Right from the time I came up on stage, right until this moment, what did I just do, right? So what I want to share with you is in every presentation, in all of the events, one thing that's really important is how you start your events. And this is basically the open. Now, the open I believe is a super crucial portion, because this is actually when you're most nervous, and this is when your audience is most critical of you. So getting your so if it's a 30-minute presentation, your first 5 minutes, crucial. If it's a 2-day event, getting your open right, crucial, right? Whether it's through a webinar, whether it's through a live event. And I just kind of want to share with you the system that I use to start off all my opens in any event, okay? So what did I just do? The moment I came on stage, the first thing that I did was, anyone remember what I did?
You asked permission. That's a question. Yeah.
That's right, I asked a question. And this question is not just any ordinary question, but it's basically like a universal question. And what is this? This is basically a question that I know will enroll 100% of the audience. It's a question that I know the audience will say yes to. So my question was, like, how many of you would like to have a lot more reach and impact in your lives, right? So that's a universal question. Now, it is said that if you can get your audience to say yes at the start, they're going to be a lot more inclined to say yes at the end. So one of the things you want to be doing is to be constantly enrolling them. Now, I know it's weird, but you'll notice that this happens a lot in like infomercials, right? In infomercials, notice their languaging. They say things like, have you ever woke up in the morning, got out of bed feeling tired? Right? How many of you have heard something like that before? Right? Now, if you take a look at this question, it's actually a question that's split up into 3 questions, right? It's basically, have you ever woke up in the morning? Have you ever got out of bed? Have you ever felt tired? Right? So because they combine it in one question, and people are saying yes, right? They're more likely to say yes. So that's basically starting off a universal question. Why is starting off with a question important? It is because the person that is asking the question is in control. So whether it's through a webinar, whether it's through a live event, right? In court, who are the people that ask the question? It's the right? It's the lawyers, it's the judge, right? So basically, universal questions. Take control of the stage, take control of the event by asking question. Next thing that I did is, anyone can tell what I did next? So the next thing that I did was I acknowledged you guys for being here. Right now, the audience, now again, the platform could be on a webinar, it could be through a live event, but right now they are still very skeptical. They're thinking to themselves, I don't know if I made the right decision being here, being on this page, being on this webinar, being in this live event. I had to sacrifice my weekend, I had to fly over, and all these different things that's going on in your mind, we got to answer, and you got to answer that objection straight away. So what did I say? I said, I want to thank you guys for being here, and I will do everything in my power to make it well worth your time. So now they're sitting down, they're thinking to themselves, okay, so this person understands me. I had to take time out of my really busy schedule to be here today. So you want to acknowledge them for being there. Then the next thing that you want to be talking about is what's in it for me? What's in it for them, right? So they're sitting down thinking, okay, like, what am I going to learn? What am I going to discover? So you want to be talking about at least 3 things that they will discover. Now, one word that many marketers like to use is the word learn, right? Here's what you're going to learn in this webinar. From this point forth, I don't want you to use the word learn. Learning is a dirty word. People don't want to learn. Learning sounds like a really painful process. People want to discover. Here's what you're going to get by the end of this presentation, right? So learning is a very painful word. People don't want to learn. People want to discover. So after I talked about what's in it for you guys, I talked about the different 5 pillars of this event. Then I asked for permission to do what? To tell my story. Now my story All great stories are just really two things. It's basically just, number one is the successes, but the more powerful portion is the struggles. Now, most of the time, what speakers and marketers like to do is they like to talk about how great they are to earn the right and to build credibility. But what they fail to see is that the struggles is what makes you human. It is the struggles that makes them, that allows them to believe that they can do it as well. So one thing I'd like you to realize is this. Many marketers, what they like to do is they constantly talk about the successes, which is important in order to get credibility. But I want you to know that the more time you spend dwelling and talking about your successes, this is where they're going to zone out. So every time you try to build credibility and earn the right, you need to make it about them. So for example, let's say you've built and you've executed $1 million launch, which is important to earn the right because that's what they're going to be doing. But when you're talking about this, make it about them. So that's where you connect it back with what's in it for them, where you're talking about. So one of the things that I've managed to do is to conduct $1 million launch, and I'm going to show you the things that I've learned from this launch. So now, even though you're talking about the successes, you're able to relate it back to them, and they are going, okay, so that's why it's relevant, right? Because if you don't connect your successes back to them, that's when they zone out. Because they're constantly thinking about, well, what's in it for me? What does this have to do with me, right? So every time you talk about your successes, connect it with your struggles so that it inspires them to show them that you too were once in their shoes, that you too are human, that you've screwed up in life before, but also at the same time, make it about them, right? What's in it for them. So, in other words, how can you get the most out of this event? How many of you would like to get a ton out of this event?
Yes.
Right? Okay, thank you. So what I want you to do is I want you to put on two hats throughout this entire event. And here's how it works. The first hat is the obvious one. It's just coming from the angle of the student and just learning. But the second hat would be to constantly ask yourself, why did Peng Joon just did what he did? Right? To try to understand the structure and the framework of this entire event because there's a reason for it. So every time you hear me talk about something, teach something, even though, and you guys are all overachievers here, right? But think about like the structure and why I did what I just did. And that's going to be a lot more powerful than just coming from the angle of the student. Okay, so the question is, does this work? So this is Sterling Griffin, and this is what happened for him after he understood the techniques that you guys are going to discover.
I followed Peng's process, I executed on it, and even though it was my first time doing a live event, we did over, in total sales for the event, we did over $400,000. Now, that was roughly 12 signups for the $5,000 offer and then 14 for the higher offer. I mean, literally, at the end of my presentation for the higher end offer, people got up out of their seats and ran to the back of the room to purchase the program. I mean, no joke. They ran. I thought that was just something out of a fantasy land or a dream, but it happened to me. So I cannot say enough about working with Peng, because not only did I pay my money back at this event, but I realize now that if I follow a proven process with events, it can become very lucrative, very profitable, and I can change so many lives. It's not just about the money that we made, but each of the people that were buying our program, like they were literally thanking me. So many of them with tears, like, thank you for doing this. Thank you for this event. You changed my life. And I don't know that would be the case had it not been for me hiring Peng. So Peng, I just want to also speak to you, man. Thank you so much for your support on this. It made a massive difference for me. And I know that anyone who gets the opportunity to work with you is blessed. And I hope that they follow your instructions, man. I hope they just do what you tell them to do, because by golly, it works. Thank you so much, my man. And I wish you all the best in business. And for those of you watching, considering Peng, I hope that if you're the kind of person that wants to get results faster rather than slower, hope that you choose to work with Peng. Have an amazing day. Peace, love, and gains, baby. Woo!
Okay, sidebar. So why did I just play this video? You guys are already here. The reason why I played this video is because this is what you want to be doing in your events. You got to be reselling them that they made a good decision showing up. Remember, throughout this entire event, in your events, you got to be constantly selling them on why they made a great decision showing up for your event. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm pre-framing the fact that you guys made a great decision, and I didn't just do it for myself, but for somebody else who has never done an event in his life, did his first event, generated over $400,000, and therefore, this thing should work, right? If you actually implement it and follow the steps. So think about how, when you are doing your events, when you're starting out, how can you frame it to resell them on the fact that they made a great decision showing up for your event? Okay, so